Okay, so the first question is, what role did extreme poverty play in the Rwandan genocide?
In the Rwandan genocide, the poverty played one of the major roles, and not only during that period, but also throughout history. For instance, in 1959, when during the Hutu revolution, Hutus kicked out Tutsis, many people, we saw people fleeing their small houses, occupying houses of people who were leaving the country, going outside, occupying their plantations because they did not have them. And these people were not punished by anyone since that time. This repeated itself, history repeated itself in 1973, when again a few people fled the country, going to exile. Their neighbors occupied their houses, and because they did not have houses. And in 1990, we even went as far as seeing the government selling the stocks of rice, of food and clothes and everything that belonged to those who were fleeing the country. Unfortunately, in 1994, these people had been victims for 3 decades when they also came back fighting and took power by force. They had to do the same thing. 1994, I saw with my own eyes people breaking other people's shops, jumping just to the other side of the counter, selling products that they never bought. And today in Rwanda, you have people who never had a house, but for the last 14 years, they live in the other people's houses. That since 1994, we have been seeing people driving cars, and in their normal lives before the Rwandan genocide, before the war, these people were more or less like street kids. This is to say that poverty is one of the major issues in almost all the killing fields.
So how does war and genocide impact poverty in Africa?
Well, many wars in Africa always end up in genocides, which are not qualified as genocides, but all wars almost lead to genocides. There is always someone fighting the other one, and both are killing each other. So the result is that at the end, one or the two warring factions commits a genocide. This was the case in Sierra Leone, this was the case in Rwanda, this has ever been the case in Burundi, but the world does not qualify what is going on as a genocide, but according to the Geneva Convention, the Geneva definition of the genocide, all the signs of a genocide are always there. So a war, first of all, wars make people very poor. Once there's a war, the whole population is displaced. People who had been settled in places for years, they leave everything behind. Once you leave everything behind, you don't take, you can never take everything in a bag, not even in a suitcase. So you leave everything, and everything is either stolen or destroyed. So wars create poverty.
So what are the main reasons that sub-Saharan Africa is, as a whole, is poor? Do you think those are kind of the same reasons as the poor that you mentioned?
The major cause that the sub-Saharan Africa is very poor is because of those everlasting wars. Africans have been fighting And these wars are always entertained by Western superpowers, because behind each and every dictatorship in sub-Saharan Africa, there is always a Western superpower. Always.
Like the Western superpowers kind of supporting one side or the other, is that what you mean?
Whenever there's a war, there are always two warring factions. Mm-hmm. Behind each and every faction, there is always a Western superpower. So Western superpowers who do not want to fight within their own countries, among the products which are being sold to Africa, there is always a war. Because each and every warring faction is supplied in weapons and ammunitions by a Western country. They have advisors. Where do those advisors come from? They come from Western superpowers.
What do you think works to fight extreme poverty or genocide?
The most important thing is to raise awareness in the West and stop the wars. Once the wars are stopped and people settle, then the problem will be solved. Africans know how to work. I won't tell you that Africa would be like America today, but if Africans are given peace, they can start working and rebuilding Africa. But what they need, the minimum they need, is peace. I'll give you an example of Rwanda. Rwanda, between 60 and 90, was a developing country, but going very fast. You could see that the rural areas were developing just clearly. But since 1990, when the war started, everything slowed down and many things are now destroyed. There are no more roads, there's nothing. Only Kigali, the capital city, has been improved because the people who, the warring faction that won, came from abroad, came from Uganda especially. They settled in the capital city because they had no more roots in the rural areas. So they had to develop, and they got everything. So when they got everything, they developed the capital city because the rural area for them does not more mean a lot.
So this is kind of a question. If Rob, the other character in the documentary, were here, he's kind of the antagonist. He would ask, like, is it our responsibility or the West's responsibility to fight extreme poverty in places like Africa, or should we just take care of ourselves?
No, I believe that we should not always try to find a scapegoat and condemn only the West. Whereas as Africans, we also have responsibilities in all of those troubles we have been going through. If the West, there is always a Western superpower maneuvering, manipulating, like Adam's playing Nintendo behind the screen, and you see what is going on the screen. You see Scooby-Doo jumping. You think it is Scooby-Doo doing it, but behind the screen, there is always someone. But this someone is manipulating people who also can do something, who are intelligent, who can change their own countries to better. I can give you an example. The acting president of Botswana, when he became the president of Botswana, the annual income per capita was about $450 per person per year. And today, it is about $2,500 per year. He has improved the wealth, the well-being, the wealth and health of his own people since he has been a president. Why? Because he learned to share to share the wealth of that nation to each and every citizen of his country. So Botswana is a developing country. You can see it is developing. That is a very good lesson for Africans.
So what do you think like our role as the West is then?
Our role as the West right now, the West is helping all of those dictators to steal from their own nations. Countries come to what they call the Bretton Woods institutions. This mean to say the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank. They get loans in the name of their countries. This money, we say that it goes by a plane somewhere. It just moves around in the sky, does never land on the African land. It comes back to the West. So this is on whose account? On the leader's account. So now, the West is aware of what is going on. Then they entertain robbery, theft from those superpower, from dictators. And these dictators, once they get this money from stealing it from their own countries, they bring the money here. Wives and children are brought to America, to Europe, and then they buy a lot of assets. What happens? The wives will be managers of their assets. Kids will be going even to primary school to America. No one will tell me that. America does not know that many presidents are sending their young kids to America for the primary school. Now, if a leader knows that he's building good schools for his own people, why does he or she not send his or her own children to those good schools, but rather send them to America or to Europe? And who is paying this? Above all, it is the taxpayer in those developing countries who is paying for schools, for scholarships, for babies, and the mothers who are entertained abroad. So the West is totally aware. What can we do here? The most important thing to do is to raise awareness. Ask the administration, for instance, to freeze those assets. Once those assets will be frozen, these people will steal. I won't tell that they won't steal. They will. But in stealing, they will invest in they'll be encouraged or forced to invest this money in their own countries. Investing in their own countries will create jobs, will bring cash flow, and their countries will develop. So, in other words, as long as the West does not do that, the West is an accomplice in what is going on.
So, a guy like our friend Rob, what would you tell him to do? Just to, if he wanted to, so he says, should he care more, do something here in America? Or like, I don't know how to phrase this question. So you think he should raise awareness? If he wants to do something, he should raise awareness?
I believe that, and this is very often my message to young people should be much more involved in what is going on in the world. Raise awareness about these issues, for instance, with those guys who are stealing from their own countries, bringing everything back to the West, where it came from. And this is being entertained by the West. Young people should, again, talk about humanitarian issues. Since I'm a humanitarian, I think that young people should stand up and talk about it. Human rights have been violated in developing countries. And this is one of the major issues of the massacres. This creates tensions, and at a given time, it bursts. So why don't then young people tell through their elected leaders, tell the administration, that these leaders who are killing their own people, they are not untouchable. One day, they have to face justice. Once people know that they face justice, they start to be careful. But in developing countries, underdeveloped, what they call developing, but there are many underdeveloped countries. You see people butchering others, and they do not care. The leaders, they should be held accountable, and they should be told this. They should know that one day they'll have to face justice. Soon or later, people are caught by history, and these ones should also be told this by, for instance, a U.S. president. If a U.S. president sends a message, a superpower president sends a message to a dictator, that guy will think twice before butchering his own people. And the West just showed a very important sign. When the NATO went to the former Yugoslavia, got hold of Milosevic, brought him to The Hague, that was one of the best lessons I have ever seen from the West. No one else will repeat what Milosevic did, especially in Eastern Europe. Everybody thinks twice before killing his own people. So justice should be another lesson to those guys. Of course, there are many other things that people can do. Not only justice, not only fighting about human rights, but people, if it need be, you can even send petitions. Send them to the administration. Send them to the United Nations. But this will be raising awareness, talking, spreading the message.
So do you think that young people can make a difference? And why?
Even one person can make a difference. Why? Because young people, you still do have the will, and you have the future in your hands. The future is not supposed to be mine. It is rather you to deal with the future, because you are the future leaders. So if you want a better world, you will get it. But if you want it to be worse, it will. If you want it to remain this way, it will as well. You are the future decision makers of this world.
So what do you think will motivate young people to actually want to take action to fight injustice?
It does not take a lot of people to start anything in the world. Just one person starting. If you can move around and gain, for instance, 100 signatures, raise awareness and ask another 100 people to get another 100 signatures. In a week, you can send a very important message, for instance, to the White House. So each and every one person, one individual, can make a difference. It does not take 1,000 people in order to make a revolution. And a humanitarian revolution would be the best.
So, well, we've kind of been thinking about, like, a lot of people try to motivate out of guilt, and they try to show, like, you know, sad pictures to try to get people to do something. And we want to try to motivate out of joy and show people that, you know, there's a huge hope that you can be a part of doing something better. So, like, would you know, what do you think, like, would motivate people or inspire people to act, like, what's, like, more effectively?
Well, there are many people, many role models. There are many people who did the right thing. Each and every young man has a hero. I had my own heroes. My hero was my father, because I admired the way he did things. My other hero is Mandela. Mandela did the right thing. Because Mandela, in his speeches, since 1940, when he spoke officially for the first time, his speech was South Africa for all, equal rights to all, justice for all. So you see, and even today, that is still his speech. I like people who have got a message, and a lasting message. So young people also, each and everyone has got a hero. What do you admire from your hero?
So as you travel all over the world, what would you say is like your central message, or the most potent thing that you try to convey to people?
The message I'm trying to convey to all the people, I'm urging, as a humanitarian, I'm urging the whole world to save Africa, because Africa is a continent in peril. It is in a total disaster. If you see what has been happening in Rwanda before 1994, the genocide, people were killing others. And the genocide was just a climax of the massacres. It slowed down, but does not mean that it stopped. And the world closed ears and eyes when this was taking place, and turned backs, ran away, did as if nothing has happened. In northern Uganda, you have people say that Uganda is one of the most developed economically countries, most developed countries in Africa. I do agree. But how can you say that a country is one of the most developed countries economically, since it has 1.8 million people displaced within a place? Somalia is a completely forgotten case, and yet there are many civilians who are caught into the massacres, victims only. You go to Darfur. Darfur is a very good example. The Congo is the worst ever. Since 1996, when Rwanda invaded the Congo, up to date, more than 5 million people have been killed. Again, we all of us closed our eyes and ears. We turned backs and pretended not to see what has been going on. It is not later than last week when the Rwandan army again invaded the Congo. Last week, the other week, the Congo was invaded by the Rwandan army, and we saw them. We saw the army, the Rwandan army, burning camps for Congolese. What for? There are many reasons why the Congo is being invaded. Congo has got a lot of natural resources, what people have qualified, and with reasons, as the blood diamonds. Each and everyone has got a cell phone. The most famous metals used in making cell phones, coltan, is found in the Congo. So this is why there is a lasting fight. And Rwanda is the best country in the world, the first producer of coltan. And there is no single small stone you can find in Rwanda. So where is it coming from? From this blood diamond. And what is the cost? The cost is now more than 5 million people. Coltan, gold, the diamonds, cobalt, and so on. This is why then people have been butchered at that price. The whole world, my mission is to urge the whole world, and please convey this message. My mission is a kind of wake-up call to the international community as a whole, urging each and everyone to stand up, because for so long we stood by and watched what has been going on.
We're going to travel to and through Africa. We're going to live in extreme poverty on $1 a day ourselves. Probably not be able to eat very much. It'll be probably very difficult for us. What do you think about our idea and our adventure to do that?
Your idea is a very lovely idea. And once in life, someone has got to go out for adventure and also to learn. On your way to Africa, I would give you a short message. Go, see, and learn, and then come back and raise awareness. In 4 words, this is my message. Go, see, learn, come back, teach others.